What's up, you guys? It's new me, and I am still in my car. This is a different day in a different car, but I am here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about my pediatric rotation because that video was actually supposed to be recorded a long time ago, but I just didn't have time to do it. So my pediatric rotation was actually my first rotation, and I've only completed 2 rotations, pediatric and OB-GYN rotation. The OB-GYN rotation video is up already because I just wanted to get that out there before I forgot or didn't have time. But I did promise that I was going to also put the pediatric rotation video out there after I did the OB-GYN one. So here we go. So my pediatric rotation was really good. I really liked my preceptor that I had. And as far as the schedule that we had with pediatrics, it was a basic, like technically 8 to 5 schedule during Monday through Friday. We didn't really do any weekends or anything like that. So that was really good. But the schedule kind of changed. So even though we had it for 8 to 5, I was the secretary of the group, and which I really liked having that position in that core because I had like one-on-one all the time with my attending, and I was responsible for setting up the schedule for us to go to our locations that we're supposed to go to, and just making sure that the students were staying on task with things because the attending did not want to deal with that. So it was up to myself and also the office manager to handle those things. Everything basically got approved through the office manager, and then she would relay that to me. I would then relay whatever needed to be relayed to the students, and that was kind of how that relationship or dynamic went during that rotation. But I absolutely loved it because I felt that gave me a lot of time to get to know the attending, and also for her to get to know who I was. And it paid off in the end because I ended up getting a very good recommendation. Well, said that she would give me a very good recommendation for my application if I'm going into pediatrics or family medicine. So I said, oh, that's great, so I was happy about that. But anyway, back to the time. So even though we were scheduled for 8 to 5, the time would change a lot in this particular rotation. Because it just this rotation happened in right at the time when we got the notification that we were no longer going to really be in Atlanta. So it was a lot of confusion with the preceptor attending physicians and also even the students. It was a lot of confusion about what was going to be going on. So basically our attending, because she had already heard that, this was going to be taking place, she had scheduled some things that she needed to do. Also, like her daughter was getting married, so they were going on a destination wedding type of thing. And so that's why our time wasn't really a stickler for 8 a.m. to 5. So we typically would get to the office right before the patients would come, which the patients' first appointments were typically around 9:30 to 10 o'clock. And so we just made sure that we were there at the office. Now, in the office, this is clinic. We also had a nurse practitioner that, of course, she had her doctorate, but so we called her doctor. But she was a nurse practitioner, and she had her own patients, and she also would see our preceptor's patients when the preceptor wasn't available. So when the attending wasn't available, we would be with the nurse practitioner, who was absolutely phenomenal as well. And so we would do that, and then we would break for 1 hour for lunch. And then the office started back at 2 o'clock, and they would be done normally around 5 or 5:30. Now, we had lecture 3 days a week, and it would happen after clinics. So basically our lectures were disease-based, and we had to prepare our own lecture. She did not do lecture for us. We had to prepare. All the students had assigned diseases that we had to do our PowerPoints on. Those PowerPoints had to be around 20 minutes apiece. And whatever the various diseases were, we just had to make sure that we were covering that. And those topics were used for studying for shelf, even studying for your step 2, all of that stuff. So that was 3 days a week. I want to say it was Monday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. And actually sometimes that changed just depending on what was going on. But it was definitely 3 days a week that we had to do that. So that would bring you home, you would probably get home around 8 o'clock or so at night. So your day would end at 5, and then lecture started at 6, and we went from 6 until 8. And if you lived close to the area, then you would get home like, a little after 8 or 8:30. But we had one student that lived like almost an hour away. So of course he got home later than that. So that was 3 nights a week that we had to make sure that we do that. So that was the only time where I was like, okay, I didn't really have a lot of time to spend with my family, but you made it up in other ways because other days it wasn't like that. And also you had the weekend as well. Once a week, every other week, we would go to the hospital to basically shadow another attending physician who was responsible for the NICU. We did not do any overnights or anything like that. It was just a day visit, and it was only for 4 hours. And so we did that every other week, once a week. And it just basically went down the list of students, and it was only 2 students at a time that was able to go. And there was only a total of 10 students in my core rotation. So it was kind of easy doing the rotation. And then also every Wednesday, every week, we went to a detention center for children and got to see patients there as well, which was a very good eye-opening experience because the children were so young and they did a lot of different crimes that you just could not imagine them doing. Some of the children were there waiting to be taken to prison, and just when you talk to them, you can just see that they really wanted someone that was caring to talk to. And so, a lot of these children just didn't have, as my attending physician would say, their parents did not get the parent award, and so they struggled throughout their life a lot of times, and then that struggle just led to behavioral issues and then bouts with the police and ended up in jail. So that was kind of a sad situation. They literally would sometimes make themselves sick, so they were able to go and see the doctor to get themselves out of the detention area. So, I was just sad to see that. But they were rough as well. So you're always kind of just watching your back because they always have something up their sleeve, and you just have to be aware of that. But it was a very good experience, and that was basically the gist of the rotation. We were able to basically see the patients on our own after about the second week, I would say. The rotation was 6 weeks long, and we would just have to report to our attending or the nurse practitioner our findings, and they would also see the patient and just make sure that what we were hearing when we did our exams or seeing or what have you matched what they felt that the diagnosis was. So I thought that was really good. Now, our attending was very involved, and these were her babies, and so she wasn't as open with us just doing everything hands-on. So she would do a lot of the things and then say, here, come and hear this, here, come and feel this, that kind of thing. The nurse practitioner was a lot different. She was just like, go see the patient, come back to me, let me know what you find. So I appreciated that. Now, as far as for studying for my pediatric rotation, being that it was a first rotation, I really didn't know how to approach the study part of it, because I just felt, number one, I still have all this pressure on me to do very well in my core rotation. I'm trying to, I wanted to have honors throughout my whole entire third year. That was my goal. And I unfortunately didn't get an honors grade on my pediatric shelf. So that kind of hindered that goal for me. Not saying that I can't still do well in every other shelf exam or core. It was just, I really wanted to have honors for the whole entire third year, and not just, honors here and there, what have you. So I ended up using online med ed as that was recommended. I ended up using Emma Holiday. That was also recommended by from DR to Doctor on YouTube. That's how I found out about it, but a lot of other people also knew about Emma Holiday. So I looked at her lecture, which was around 2 hours long, and maybe I should have studied her notes a lot more. I'm not really sure in hindsight if I should have done that more. I think Anki, which I'm not an Anki person, to be honest with you, but maybe if I would have looked at the Anki cards, because I know people that did Anki and they actually did pretty well on the exam. But I didn't use Anki at all for my pediatric rotation. I just used online med ed. Our school gives us Firecracker. I actually used Firecracker in the pediatric rotation, but it was just, it wasn't relevant to what we were learning. And so at times I felt I was wasting time doing that, but I still used it because it was first rotation and I wasn't sure about how and what resources to actually use. And of course I used UWorld, and I made sure with UWorld that I went through UWorld. Basically I went through one full time to answer the questions, and then I went over my wrongs, and that's how I approach UWorld. I'm gonna turn this light on because it's kind of getting dark. So that's basically what I did for pediatrics. But when I actually got to the shelf exam, and I also did the MBMEs that are provided by MBME, and you pay for them. They're around $20 a piece, and there are about 3 to 4 that you have to do for pediatrics for sure. And so I did all of those, and then I did the practice shelf exam that Firecracker has. Now, I will say that my MBMEs, the grades were they were higher than I got on the shelf practice exam, and then I ended up getting basically a grade close to that practice shelf exam from Firecracker. So I don't know. I can't really say that, do Firecracker because it will prepare you. I still felt that a lot of the information wasn't really relative to how we were being taught in the rotation. And when I would do the UWorld questions, they're so different than like how Firecracker presents it to you. So that experience, I can't say for sure if something really, really stuck with me. But I will say the online med ed questions, videos and questions were good. And I think I should have done them more. So that's one thing that I feel like in hindsight, I would change. I would have done that more. I did pass my shelf. As I said, I didn't get an honors grade, and I ended up passing my core with a B+, which was kind of disappointing, but that's what happened. So the shelf that they give us is not something that shows up on your transcripts or anything like that. But the programs, if they're interested, they can request your grades during your core rotation. So that's why it's so important that you do well, especially if it's something that you want to go into. You should try to get honors for that. So that's kind of why I was kind of down about not getting the honors for pediatrics, because I ended up getting a C on that exam. And that C brought my A that I got in the actual core elective with the attending, which gave me an A. It brought my grade to a B+. So that's why I didn't, end up getting the honors grade. And so I was very bummed about that. I was very bummed. But I mean, I can change it. And pediatrics is, on my list of what I'm applying for, but my interest is definitely OB. So that's first on my list, realizing that OB is very competitive and that my step score is not as high as it needs to be. And not that can completely take you off the page of ever doing something that you really want to do, because I really feel like if it is for you to do, it will happen no matter what, right? So you can be in your feelings, because I find myself getting in my feelings and beating myself up, but in actuality, I am not in control over what can potentially happen. So I'm just trying to do what I know what I do best, which is I'm a networker, and I'm very social, and I meet a lot of people, and I know a lot of people. And so I'm kind of utilizing what I'm good at. And, I'm also good at hands-on whatever and being a team player. And so, and having those personal relationships with people that are really important, that you should have personal relationships with, that will look beyond like testing, So that is kind of my strategy at this moment. And whatever else can help, I will do that as well. But that is right now my strategy, and that's why I'm not beating me up so bad, but I do beat myself up over it. But I'm trying not to bounce myself over the head too much about it, So My second choice would be family medicine. And of course, my last choice would be pediatrics. And I would have to do a fellowship with peds, because doing that rotation, I definitely found out, which I kind of knew anyway, because I've been in the hospital for so long as a dietitian. And I'm a clinical dietitian. So I know that I'm a hospitalist. And so because I know myself, like, I would be a pediatrician that is considered to be a hospitalist, and that's the route that I would want to take. But I think I would do a fellowship to go into neonatology, if that is something that I ended up going into. For family medicine, of course, I would just do family medicine. You don't have to do any fellowships or anything like that. But my first love is OB. After doing OB, and actually, I knew going into medical school, that's what I wanted to do. That is actually what drove me to even go back to medical school, is becoming an OB, just from my own personal experience. So I was trying to say, okay, I'm open-minded. I'm definitely going to consider other things if they're good for me and they fit my lifestyle that I would like. But when I did the OB rotation, I was just like, dang, you just have that feeling, it's your calling, that's what you're supposed to be doing. So we'll see. I still have several rotations to complete. So my next rotation is psychiatry. And so I start that on Monday, which is tomorrow. And then I will let you know how that goes as well. But definitely, I enjoyed pediatrics. I enjoyed my attending. I formed a good relationship with my attending, both in OB and also in pediatrics. And both of them actually are giving me recommendations, which I am so thankful for. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. And again, I'm sorry that they're kind of like not in order, because that's not how I wanted them to be. But I definitely wanted to get that out there just to share my experience. And yeah, we'll be doing psychiatry and then leaving and going to a different site. So my next, starting in January, I will be not here. I will be in Florida. And I'll be doing surgery, which is like a 3-month stint. So I'll let you guys know how that goes. And then I'll do internal medicine and family med, and then I'll be done. I'll be done. Just a third year, but there's a lot going on in third year, because all this is preparing us to take our step 2 CK, which I have to take prior to applying to anything dealing with residency. So, and also CS. So, but yeah, if you guys like this video, please share, please like, subscribe. Any comments you have or questions or what have you, just leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer them for you. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Bye.